Swagger on point when I step in. Signs in the air for the gang that you're repping. Don't get brave when I'm stepping in the rave. If you show man love, everything's okay. So looking for a lively rave to have fun in. If there ain't girls in the place, we ain't coming. Middle finger up to the Jake, stepping in with the gang. Please tell the police they can't come in. Show me a salute, that's gang. Pure love for the crew, that's gang. Don't chat shit if you ain't gonna bang. Just show man a sign if you're down for the gang. Show me a salute, that's gang. Pure love for the crew, that's gang. Don't chat shit if you ain't gonna bang. Just show man a sign if you're down for the gang. Sign if you're down for the gang.
Can't fuck with the gang, we don't fucking pretend. We be busting the clubs, cause you know that we can. Can't fuck with the gang, we don't fucking pretend. Still rocking the show, still feeling the flow.
Welcome back, Juventinita, to the Juventinita Back to Black and White podcast. I'm Daniel Lenegro, live from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and today this is our 5th episode. And we're going to be covering the post-match of Juve-Milan in the Coppa Italia semi-final that just happened yesterday. It was an interesting game, you could say. Kicked off the restart of Italian football. And we got a lot of different opinions online. And I would have liked to have done this yesterday, but it was so boring in the second half that I passed out after the game. So you're going to get it tonight. But anyways, just before we continue and bring my guest on, I could just ask you guys if you could please smash the subscribe, drop a like, hit the bell for notifications so that you guys are aware of when the new podcasts come out, if you like to watch it on YouTube. Also, we're on iTunes and Spotify. Again, subscribe, and that'll keep you up to date on when every podcast comes out. And because there's gonna be it's gonna be a busy summer, so there's gonna be a lot of previews, podcasts, different projects going on. So that would be awesome if you guys could support that way, and it gets the message out to people who haven't heard the podcast, and also for people who want to hear the podcast. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my guest, who I met on the WhatsApp group. He reached out to me saying he wanted to come on, and we've been on a streak now. I think this is 2 in a row of new guests, and people have been new to podcasting. So, like I said before, it would have been easy to have a list of people who I could have just been like, "Hey, come on," that have been on multiple podcasts. For me, that's not kind of what we want to do. We want to hear different stories, different messages. So, Felix from Omaha, how's it going, buddy? Welcome to the show.
Doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm doing good. I was telling you before the show, I found there must not be a lot of Juve fans in Nebraska. Hopefully, maybe with these groups, someone will be able to reach out to you. Excuse me.
Yeah, hopefully so, because we'd like to meet some new people around the Midwest where we can get together and watch games and all that. So,
yeah, no, it's and you're of, like you told me before, you're of Italian descent. So how's kind of the community? I'm assuming there's not too many. It's kind of like Calgary. There's not a big group of Italian heritage, or is there? What? How is that in Nebraska?
So there isn't many of us here. I used to go to this small Italian shop where you can buy, your olive oil and all that, and cannolis and all that stuff. But unfortunately they closed.
Oh,
that's one thing that I had. That was one of my favorite spots here in Omaha, but unfortunately we don't have it anymore. But.
Well, that's too bad. There's about 10,000 Italian Canadian in Calgary, so not a huge group compared to the bigger cities like Toronto or Vancouver, but definitely we have some great places here. Anyways, as tradition of new guests on podcasts, we'd like to hear how you became a Juve fan. Where do you watch your game? What types of games? Your favorite players? Do you have any brothers or sisters that are Milan or Inter fans? But the floor is yours.
So just to kind of give you a little bit of background, my grandfather, he was born in the Italian Alps, in a small town in the Alps, which is about 2 hours away from Torino and about 3 hours away from Genova. So he kind of passed that down to my dad. My dad, obviously, person that he's very proud from where he comes from and all the things that involve that. So basically, Juventus grew on him. He wasn't really a big fan, but it's one of those people that regardless if they're a fan or not, that they're proud of what the region offers, what the teams are, and all that. So thank God they chose Juventus, because I'm pretty sure they could have easily chosen Torino or Genoa. So I was fortunate enough that my dad told me, "Hey, this is a team we follow. This is the best team in Italy, so be proud of it." I remember my dad in his office, he used to have this poster from the 2001-2002 season with all the Juventus players, and I was always wondering who those guys were when I was a little kid. And that grew up on me. I was like, okay, so this is what we follow. This is what we do. This is our blood. And since that moment, I've had that poster in my room. And it's been a big part of my life. When I was a little kid, I wouldn't be a fan as I am right now, where I study the history, look back, watch videos of the players that basically carried this emblem. But I would still follow the games and all that. I would still be rooting for the team. But I would say the point where I really became a student of the history of Juventus was when I was about 13 years old, after the World Cup of 2006 that we won. I started studying the team, the history, all the players, and which is a little unfortunate because we know what happened during that time with Juventus, but it kind of made me feel like, hey, if you really love this team, you're going to stick around it. And that's what happened. So I'm really proud that happened. And I'm glad that we're back to top flight. So.
Yeah, and I'm guessing like the same for me. It was pretty tough following the team when you were a kid because you had to have some kind of special package, or they didn't even have the type of package. I know there was like a flip-flop of who had the rights and who didn't. Obviously, you told me before you were from the Dominican Republic, correct? So
yes.
Was it difficult back then to watch, or did they have a channel there where they showed all international sports? Obviously, I'm guessing you could get a lot of the American channels, right? But we're in Canada, we can't get stuff like ESPN. Our government has to have a certain amount, so we have a channel that's called TSN, which is essentially the same thing as ESPN, but a Canadian version. So we'll get like direct feeds from obviously college football and stuff like that. And I know you said are you a Cornhusker fan?
Well, I'm not a Cornhusker fan, but I just moved to Omaha not too long ago. But I guess it'll grow on me, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't ever tell if I'm a fan of something unless I really feel like I feel about Juventus, where if we lose a game, that ruins my weekend. If we win the game, then my weekend's going to be good, So yeah, in Latin America, we did have packages, and we still have. So we would have ESPN, ESPN2, ESPN3. We would have Fox Sports 1, and we would also have Rai. So
Okay.
we would have the ability to watch a game on Rai, which was definitely my favorite with the Italian commentators. The quality wasn't the best, but it was good that they would do a recap of all the goals and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Whenever
Joe del goal.
yeah, I love that show. I don't, as I said, I don't watch it anymore because basically here in North America we have to use ESPN Plus to watch Serie A. But yeah, I've always had the opportunity and the luck to be able to watch the games, and fortunately enough for me, for some reason ESPN and Fox Sports were leaning towards Juventus, so we would be able to watch most of the games.
Yeah, and they're we're one of the bigger teams, right? So that's always, I always feel bad for, fans of smaller teams in Serie A because they were never going to get the rub. So, when I looked at Champions League, they would always show the English teams up here, right? So it was very difficult to watch because if Man City or Man U is playing, you're not going to be on TV, or you'll be on some package where you have to spend an exorbitant amount of money, and all of that's kind of changed now. But like I said, we didn't even, as I guess you could say, as modern as Canada was at one point, you'd think we didn't even have Rai for the longest time. It was a channel called, and a lot of people know, Tele Latino, where they would show games there, and then The Score, which was a smaller sports channel. So it was definitely difficult, but and then obviously once you found out what an illegal stream was, then it was no problem to watch any of the games. But we won't talk too much about that. We don't want to get in any trouble. But yeah, no, it was a great story, and yeah, I think it's different for everybody, right? Like some people were older, some people were younger, but at the end of the day, the love, the passion's the same, and I think it's really great to hear different stories from all around the world. So thank you for that, Felix. Now we're gonna get into some news. There's not too much, obviously. We had the game to discuss, but something that really pissed me off the night before. And I'm guessing is the reason why I passed out after the game. Another thing is I get up at 4 a.m. to see what this damn release is. This for extraordinary fans, as they're calling it, or extraordinary collectors, excuse me. And I think I said it best in a tweet yesterday, and it was, I can't believe I woke up at 4 a.m. for this, to realize the drop was at 2 a.m., to then realize they released a fucking boxed authentic jersey with no signature on it. What are your thoughts on that, man?
I feel like if you're an extreme collector, as you said, you would try to buy it at least, because it's something, it's a collectible at the end of the day. But somebody like me, who I consider myself somebody that doesn't collect as much, if I see a jersey and I like it, I'll buy it. But it would never come out of my mind to go out and buy something like this. And I'm telling you, I love this team. I love this club. This is basically part of my life. But to feel like that and to love this club as much as you do, and having the conviction of not even thinking of buying this, it's a lot to say. It talks a lot about what Juventus is doing. I think they could have done a better job. I mean, if we had the jersey signed by Dybala or Ronaldo, that would be something way different. It takes it to another level. But it would feel like I'm buying just a normal jersey for me.
Yeah. And like you said, I would probably consider myself an extreme collector, and I don't want that jersey at all. They essentially put the Adidas, so Adidas, I guess, uses a number system for their sizes, and it's essentially, basically, you can go get your authentic jersey for about €100 cheaper, and make yourself a nice cardboard box, put the number on top of it, spray paint it black, and you got the same thing. Yeah, for €250. I mean, I don't know who came up with this in the marketing department, but it was, honestly, I think it's going to be, I think those will go on sale pretty soon. So when everyone, when everyone can just wait a couple weeks, and you can get your exact size Chiellini jersey. I mean, I know the Dybala and Ronaldo one sold out, but I think it's just, I think it's disrespect to the fans that you release something like that with not even a signature on the back of it of Chiellini. I know there was I believe it was 6 players they had. Again, the Ronaldo ones and the Dybala ones sold out, but no, I thought there was a whole bunch of rumors, right? Was it going to be those shoes coming out? Was it going to be the Socios T-shirt that was apparently rumored to come out? But no, I don't think they should be doing that as a club. You can't be. That's just a cash grab at the end of the day. Let's call it as it is. Into the next piece of news, Dybala contract. Hopefully finalizing. I know Paratici said that they're going to get it done in the interview before the match today or yesterday. And it seems like Dybala was putting the pressure on, so we'll see. It seems like it's taken forever with this contract. I don't know how you feel, Felix, but just seems like we've been hearing this like for a year and a half now, and they still haven't been able to get the job done. So,
yeah. So I do believe we need to get this done. I think great part of keeping a player happy, and such a player like Dybala, who has proven that he is Juventus material, that he has proven that he wants to stay, he wants to play for this club. I mean, you got to get this done. We don't know what's going behind the scenes. We don't know if Dybala's agents are, pushing for more, and what we're hearing from Dybala is a different story. But I think as a club, and if you want to have Dybala as your future captain, you already gave him the number 10, which is basically an emblem for Juventus. I think we need to be able to get this done and get it in the past. I mean, we need to be able to respect basically one of our best players, if not the best, and we need to make that statement. We need to be able to say, hey, we want you to stay as well. I know your desire is to stay. We know we had a rough moment last year where there were conversations about you leaving, but we want you to stay. Let's make this work. Let's get it done. Let's meet a day and let's make it work.
Yeah, hopefully that'll come quickly. I mean, when you pay Ronaldo 31 million and he puts out a performance like yesterday, you kind of wonder why it's what you're holding up for a guy that's probably going to be generational, like you said, wearing the famous number 10 jersey, and for someone who's really given his all, I believe, to the club, and to not sign for like 2-3 million is kind of ridiculous. 12 million, with whether it be 12 million, 15 million, or 10 million, whatever the number is going to be. Obviously, they've been discussing, right? So, I can't believe it's taken so long. But also this morning, thanks to Felix, I appreciate you bringing this up. Chiellini apparently has agreed to a 1-year extension. Obviously, for this, it'll end at the end of. I think what Fabrizio Romano was trying to say is at the end of 2021-2022 season. So I guess 1 more year on for our captain, which I think is pretty straightforward. Let's get into the match. I'll just kind of go over the stats of the match before we kind of have our opinions go through. But so we had obviously the majority of the possession, which was pretty straightforward. They had a red card, so 63 for us, 37 for them. We had 25 shots to Milan's 9, 13 corners. And it was a pretty gritty match. There was a lot of fouls, and obviously we'll get into the red card and the penalties, or the penalty, excuse me. Just generally, Felix, what was your thought of the match? Don't get not too specifically, but just in general, how did you feel? Obviously, the first game back, and what'd you think?
So first of all, I just want to say that I'm happy that we're back. We were talking about canceling the season and not playing until next year. That's something that, when you think about it, you were so excited about what Juve could offer during this time, and then talking about canceling the season. That's pretty big talk. That's something that I don't recall ever living through something like that. That's something new for me. So just happy to be back, to see the guys play and do their best out there. But I can't deny I was a little disappointed with the score, not with the result, but with the score. I kind of wanted to celebrate once again a goal, regardless if it was an auto goal or whatever, a tap in or a screamer. I just wanted to be able to scream, celebrate that goal. However, I do believe we got the result that we needed. So I'm pretty happy with that. I'm pretty happy that we are in the finals. So I can't deny that that brings me joy, regardless of what the score was. So pretty happy to be back.
Yeah, no, I think it's. I think a lot of people got excited. There was a lot of excited fans after the game about how similar it was to how we were playing. I wasn't particularly happy into the later part of the game of what we were doing, but I'm not really shocked. I'm gonna kind of wait to start getting angry as I usually am. I mean, it's the first game back after how many months of layoff, so I kind of expected what to happen. Like I said, I agree with you. I wish there were some goals, but we definitely started well. And just going over the kind of how the formations were on the Milan side, it was pretty much everything we'd expected. The only thing for us was that there was the question of whether Khedira was going to start or not, and thankfully he was on the bench. And it was that Pjanic was going to fill in the Regista role. And obviously Bentancur going to be on the right side, Matuidi on the left side. And then a change that I didn't think was going to happen, but Danilo was going to be starting on the right back. So I'll kind of go minute by minute to kind of explain, some of the key moments. Initially, we came out well, from the first minute to about the 30th minute, I would say, we were pressing like crazy. And that's kind of what I predicted, but I obviously didn't believe that it was actually going to happen because, watching Juve, we usually come out sluggish and we kind of sit back, but we're actually pressing a lot. Like we were winning, we were battling for every ball, winning a lot of balls. Obviously, in the 16th minute, there was a handball VAR penalty review, which went in our way. Unfortunately, Ronaldo hits the post, and then a turn of fate. The ball goes back the other way, and Rebic, I don't know what he was doing, but he was kicking for the stars or something. But he basically tried to take Danilo's head off, and he gets a straight red. Looking further, some other key moments. Matuidi in the 30th minute had an amazing chance from a Danilo cross, and I couldn't believe he didn't score that, but Donnarumma saved that. Then again, there was a couple moments where I couldn't believe that we had we were moving well. We were moving the ball well for the most part. I mean, so after that 30th minute mark, you could tell it was kind of like the legs were kind of going a little bit. Maybe the players weren't used to it. They kind of catch their breath after the sprint that we got into. So it was definitely still had possession, but the ball wasn't moving as quick as I would have liked. But we were still pretty accurate, I would say, on the ball. Then, obviously, in the 47th minute in the first half, Ronaldo made a run. It was a little bit too far. After the halftime, Dybala had some pretty. I think Dybala was pretty good performance. Not amazing. The link up with Ronaldo was kind of difficult, but he had a couple good shots in and around. Obviously, the 47th minute was one of them. And then in the 54th minute, which pissed me off, I don't know about you, Felix, but Bentancur makes we have a nice counter with Bentancur going to Douglas Costa, and then he lays off a nice ball to Ronaldo, and I'm like, oh, he's going to go just take it in and bury it. Well, he looked like he quit on that one, and the defender gets to the ball before he does, and it's a non-chance. So I don't know. It just wasn't his game. I wasn't very happy with Ronaldo in this game, but yeah, then just some other chances. 57th minute, we win the ball back, and Dybala gives the ball to Ronaldo on the break, and just indecision again, skies the ball. Then we get everyone's worst nightmare in the 62nd minute with the triple sub of Khedira, Rabiot, and Bernardeschi. And everyone thinks they're in a bad dream because we're all getting those guys subbed on at once. But obviously, these are the new rules now. You have to, you can have 5 subs, but obviously only with 3 at 3 different times. Which was interesting though, because we changed to a 4-3-1-2, and it looked like Bernardeschi was playing in behind, obviously Ronaldo and Dybala, but Ronaldo's still central for the most part throughout the whole game. Then in the 64th minute, we see Higuain caught on his phone doing whatever the hell he was doing, and just a funny moment there, which I've seen being memed like crazy now. So 69th minute, Berna goes from making a stupid play and almost costing us the ball to then making a nice run and a decent opportunity on the other end. So, story of Berna's life. De Ligt had a very good game. Had a header that was off of obviously there was a corner. Everyone was joking about him being a false 9, but no, the only reason he was up there was because it was after a corner. And yeah, he was pretty close. If the defender didn't deflect it, I'm pretty sure that would have been a goal. Then the next corner after that, he also had another chance, and then goes down the field and makes a huge block on one of Milan's chances. I found from about, I want to say from the 60th to about the 80th minute, Milan was kind of really picking it up, really ramping it up. And in the 78th minute, there was a dangerous header that tested, obviously went wide, but, definitely made your stomach drop. Then Rabiot with a golf chip. I don't know what he was thinking about doing in the 80th. Some more bad control from Ronaldo, bounces off his chest and gives it away. Then Cuadrado comes on in the 86th for Danilo. And he brought some real pace, I found, to the wing. But nothing special for chances. We were still pushing. We were moving the ball around from left to right, trying to make some passes, but it was nothing really penetrating. Nothing really too crazy. Khedira gets a ball from Ronaldo, but he couldn't get on the end of it at the end, and pretty much just shows that he's a garbage footballer and really shouldn't be on this team. That his sub just confirmed that he doesn't belong here. And then in injury time, it was just holding on for the 0-0 and, wasting time and, making sure that they didn't score. Because as they made the mistake in the chat. I don't know if you noticed, but I thought that for some reason they had the away goal, and I'm like, well, why the hell? What's going on? Why are the players not picking it up? But obviously that wasn't the case. We were playing at home. Maybe it was the empty stadium that confused the crap out of me. But we're through to the Coppa Italia final. But anyways, I know that was a long kind of monologue, but kind of what were your thoughts on kind of the different moments? Obviously, once you finish that, we'll get into, I know a lot of people are going to be talking about the penalty and the red card, but just your thoughts on some of the different events that happened in the game, Felix.
Yes, so I feel like we started pretty well. I was surprised because I was like, well, we haven't played for a while, but this looks pretty good. It seems like Sarri had a good talk with the guys, good sessions with the guys. And they were able to to implement the idea right away. The first 5 minutes, Milan didn't even touch the ball, which is surprising because a lot of times we lose the ball with short passes, and it's kind of shared, the possession. But I feel like we did a pretty good job. That pressure that we had with Bentancur moving forward, Matuidi moving forward, and kind of not letting Milan get the ball to the 4 players that they had up front. So I think we did well there. The penalty was a result of all that pressure. We had certain opportunities there that we should have capitalized, and we didn't. But thanks to the pressure that we were implementing those first 15 minutes, I think that's the reward we got, that penalty. After the penalty, we saw that handball from Conti, which caused the penalty. That's basically some people are saying, "Oh, that's not a penalty. That was too fast." The play was going too fast, and he didn't have control of his hands. But I mean, with this VAR and all that, it's a clear penalty. After that, we had the Rebic red card, and then we had Bonaventura go on a challenge. I can't remember what the player was, but he got a yellow card, and it just shows you how out of shape the players are and how much time they haven't played. I certainly believe if we have played the entire game, 11 versus 11, we would have scored, because Milan's idea was to get an early goal. They were going after it. But after that red card, I feel like Milan just went back, settled. They just wanted the first half to go away. So they just dropped back, and they did a decent job at keeping us. I want to say Romagnoli and Simon Jair, they did a pretty good job controlling the defense, and then you had the midfielders drop back. And it was basically Juventus versus a 9-man defense after that. So not a whole lot of joy after that red card. The game kind of dropped its pace. Juventus realized that. I think Sarri knew what Milan was going to be doing for the next 25 minutes of the first half. And so we just continued doing our passing. The intensity dropped back a little bit because we kind of had the game controlled at that point. After the second half starts, then I think Juventus again had the advantage, more pressure. But I think Milan realized that they needed that goal, and they were refreshed by the half. They had the opportunity to rest, and so they tried a little bit more to try to get that early goal to put us back in the game, to put them back in the game. However, I think Juventus did a good job at defense too. I mean, the lead and Bonucci controlled the game pretty well. Bonucci was a little shaky at times, as usual, but I think we did a pretty good job at holding them back whenever they did or tried the counterattack. Another thing I noticed was when they made the substitution for the Three Stooges. I knew right away that we were going to drop the intensity, and basically Sarri made the game 10 versus 10. You could see that Milan had more confidence now. You could see Milan players dribbling through Khedira, and Khedira just opening his arms like, "Oh, I'm not going to touch him because if I touch him, it's a foul." And it basically leveled again. They had a couple of chances after that. We did too. And the game was a little bit more level because we were basically missing the presence of Khedira in there. So, as I said, we could have gotten better luck with the shots that we took. And the game would have easily been a 2-0, but unfortunately we didn't score, and we had to settle for a little bit of a boring 0-0. So
Yeah, no, it's not like you said. A lot of people were expecting goals, and it would have been nice to celebrate. But I think yeah, with the penalty, for me, honestly, I know what the rules are. I wouldn't have given it. I thought it was a little too cheap. It was kind of close. He did extend a little bit, but it was nothing, I would say, nothing malicious. I mean, we don't want the handball to be used for all these like little nicks and knacks. So to me, I would have necessarily given it, but I definitely didn't think he was going to miss the penalty. That's for sure. I was shocked when it hit the post. I was like, is this really going on right now? Is this really how this year is going to go on? But then the red card, yeah, red card. I think, like you said, it was. I saw it as a straight red, no question. I know there's a lot of Milan fans on the IFTV stream that were just crying about how we had the refs in our favor as usual, but no, I think it was without question a straight red. His boot shouldn't have been that far, and he kind of looks to the ball and he doesn't look for. He's looking forward, but he's not necessarily seeing if there's anyone there to hit, and then obviously they collide. So, and what I really like too is some of the successes of the game. The wingers, Danilo and Alexandro, had a really good game, I found. And obviously towards the end, I mean, the crosses maybe weren't as great, but the way they started and how they were getting up into the attack and helping play the ball to either Matuidi or Ronaldo or whoever, and just helping out where more they were kind of, I find they kind of sat back a little bit and they were a little bit too far back when they were trying to pass that ball in obviously the first part of the season. But no, I really liked in winning the ball back. Danilo was kind of he was doing a lot of work on that right hand side. Pjanic for the most part, I think was okay in the beginning. He was playing in the regista role. He wasn't coming too far up. Some people were saying he was inexistent. I really didn't notice that till we kind of slowed down, where it was like really he wasn't doing much. But I thought he was still moving the ball fine in the first 30 minutes. Some other key things. I thought there was some good movement. Like you said, Bentancur was making some great runs. I think he was our best player in the game. He was making good runs, good decisions, tackles, winning the ball back. Matuidi was getting in good areas. But I was expecting that kind of lull to happen because, I mean, you can only go after a layoff like this, you can only go hyper for so long. And then you kind of have to, and then obviously there's a red card. So it gives you a little bit of space to play with. Obviously, we don't want that mentality in other games. I think kind of if we can continue on with that pressing and that style, it shows perfectly what Sarri wanted to implement. But yeah, it was unfortunate we slipped up there. And then again, after the second half, we had that little boost of energy. But then again, like you said, with the 3 subs, it was okay. Cuadrado, I liked. I thought he was going to come on. I liked to see. Obviously, he only had like about 8 minutes, but he had some good pace. Douglas Costa was running as well. I liked him throughout the game. I'm surprised he got pulled off, but what can you do? So kind of some other key things. What did you think about De Ligt? I think had a good game. What do you think the link between Dybala and Ronaldo? I know a lot of people were talking about it. What's your thoughts?
So since the beginning of the game, I started to notice that the link between Dybala and Ronaldo was non-existent, and not even like whenever you say 2 forwards are not linking. Sometimes you're saying, oh, this forward tried to pass the ball like 2 forward or two to the back. So I feel like simple passes to each other they were missing. Like that was Some say it's a lack of concentration. Maybe Ronaldo was still thinking about that penalty that he missed. But also you could see Dybala misplacing some passes to him.
Right.
It seemed like both of them wanted to carry the ball at some points, and where Dybala was trying to create something, and you would see Ronaldo just right next to him expecting to get the ball. It was kind of like let me do it myself or not. You know, it's kind of like you don't want to see that on a team, especially like Juventus. We need to have Ronaldo making the runs when Dybala is trying to create something, and vice versa. So that, I think that was one of the negative sides of things that I really saw. I really like Douglas Costa at the front. I think he's scrappy. He gets the ball. He tries to do something with it. Especially from that left side, making some crosses. I didn't see him being, like, oh, let me try to create it myself, kind of thing. Like we saw Dybala and Ronaldo. Costa was more trying to play with the team, trying to make the crosses, trying to get the ball to the forwards. So that was a positive thing. One thing about De Ligt and Bonucci, I think they were pretty solid, both of them. More De Ligt than Bonucci. Bonucci had a moment where he was almost going to cause a penalty, where he pushed Simon Jair, and that would have been easily called a penalty if the referee was moving towards that, So I think it was.
I saw them talking about it on Rai after the game. When you look at it again, I think he made a little bit of an embellishment. Like, there was contact, yes, but it wasn't like he shouldered him really hard. He kind of he felt the contact, and then he kind of was like, okay. Mm-hmm. But again, like you said, they could have called it because I've seen less called during matches, so there was definitely a contact there. But so he's got to be careful with that, and there's some moments too. I think, like you were saying, he looked a little bit kind of out of sorts, where out of place, so yeah, I think that's, but no, definitely on De Ligt. I think he was making key blocks. He was going into obviously the attack when he had to, and I definitely think that's a bright spot. At least we can get those two back. Obviously, we don't know when Chiellini's going to come back and how that's going to change things. If that means De Ligt goes to the bench or not, or Bonucci goes to the bench or whatever. But because I know we're going to have to use rotation, plain and simple. But so they might not risk Chiellini and just keep him aside as long as he needs, so he can get back to 100 and maybe play those two for a little bit.
Yeah. I think I definitely think the defense was a positive for this game. Not only De Ligt and Bonucci, but both Sandro and Danilo. Basically, Sandro told us with this game that all he needs is a little bit of rest. That he needs to be rotated. He can be the left back that we need, that we know of. He excels at it defensively and also moving forward. He's an excellent left back. He just needs somebody to rotate with him. Unfortunately, we don't have that player. One positive thing about Danilo is not only that this performance that he had, but also that it gives Sarri another option, right back. That we know if we play a very difficult team that attacks a lot, we can play him there. Somebody that probably will make a little bit less mistakes than Cuadrado, because Cuadrado is often cut off guard being up front. So it's good to have this player where we can count on, and we can rest Cuadrado and definitely have him there and put up performances like this. I think one of the best crosses yesterday was given by Danilo. Definitely Matuidi had to score that, but I think Matuidi is too focused on passing the ball correctly that when he sees a keeper and he shoots
he
straight.
Yeah.
So
froze him.
which I don't think it's a bad thing. Matuidi did what he usually does, control the midfield defense, try to recover the possession, sometimes move forward and try to create an opportunity. I did notice a lot of Juventus players didn't pass him the ball when he was in good positions because they understand the limitations that he has. But definitely, he didn't do a bad job. I think he did what he can, and that's what he can do. He doesn't offer much more than that.
Yeah, I think another important thing to note is today kind of really solidified the idea that the midfield needs to be relooked at. Like, obviously, we're gonna have to, and like I said, we're gonna make it work, and hopefully these guys get better, they get more match fit and stuff like that. But when you look at the subs in the second half, and you're like, do we really have the depth that we think we have and that we'll need in this time? And I mean, when you like Khedira, to me is lost cause. I can't wait till his contract is done. I know he's going to sit out till he's going. I mean, like you said, Matuidi was good. I think he did what he needed to do. Nothing special. You're not going to get anything really special, but hey, you need players like that. So I can't complain about Matuidi. Bernardeschi, I found that he did make some good runs. But again, some sloppy touches. Again, he had that one action where he almost coughed up the ball in our own end. So I think he's going to have to pick up his socks a little bit and improve. Rabiot, nothing really. I mean, he had that one chip. I don't know what he was doing. I thought he was going to crank the ball. And it was just like everyone was like, what the hell? And then, I think, like everyone talks about a lot of players, like, oh, why don't we put Pjanic in like more in an offensive role like Mezzala or even like center attacking mid? I don't think he has the legs anymore. Like I really don't think he's got the legs to run. He barely moves now. And I mean, it's one thing to say just try it, whatever, but I think these games are too important now to start being like, oh, unless we get an injury and we have to make those decisions, that's a different story. But I think with Pjanic, I think it's the right time to move on. I mean, we'll see what he can bring forward in the next couple games. But yeah, I didn't really see. I think we're really lacking for Ramsey, and again, I think we need to start moving on with a lot of these players, and they're just not up to quality. But again, I think positive notes to take out. Like I said, first game, obviously the defensive side was solid. The attacking was really good at points. Ronaldo, I'm not going to be too. I think he had his probably worst game with Juve, but I'm not going to be too critical. I probably was during the game. I probably even cursed him out during the game, but I'm not going to get too critical with it. I think there's room improvement for everybody. I find, though, that he does lack a little mentality. I think we should get into... Everyone talks about this mentality he has, and I've just noticed, I don't know if you have, towards the end of games where we've been playing a lot, or obviously this is coming off a break, he kind of just lulls and like kind of is on his own. He'll like stop running a lot of the times unless the ball kind of goes to him. Maybe spaces out a little bit. And I find that when you have a player that we allow to do whatever, right? Like you look at the beginning, there was a lot of movement. Dybala was coming on the left. Douglas Costa was going on the right. Everyone was kind of moving around. I find after the 30 minutes, we were set to, okay, Douglas Costa was on the left. Ronaldo's going to stay central. And Dybala was a little bit too far out. And then you lose kind of Dybala's, shine of like coming in and making and providing some damage that way and some spark where he can come in. He was too far out. And I found that's why the connection wasn't that great. Again, first game, some passes. Okay, Ronaldo thought he was going to go left and he went right or whatever and vice versa. So that's expected. But I find And I've always questioned this, giving Ronaldo his kind of own role and letting him do what he wants kind of thing. And I know Roman was touching on it on his live that he did during the game. And it's like, when you pay someone that kind of money, and and obviously, again, like I said, I don't want to get too into it and too hard on him, but when you're paying that kind of money and you're looking for that clinical edge and you're not getting that, I think it really brings the team down. And then again, you're not getting them in the most defensive of positions, where sometimes you'll see Dybala come back or Douglas Costa come back and help out, where he's kind of isolated at the top. And I find it sometimes puts us in difficult positions. But yeah, what are your thoughts on kind of the attacking, kind of how it was moving? I like to see them moving in different positions, because it seemed like it was causing a lot of problems. Obviously, the clinical finish wasn't there, but striker Ronaldo is. I don't think what we need is central for or a striker. Number 9, Ronaldo.
So my thoughts on Ronaldo. He's definitely a winner. Somebody with the mentality of a winner like Ronaldo. You said it yourself. You were kind of cursing at him and all that, and I think we all were. But I think he's his best critic. I think Ronaldo, he was probably blaming himself for missing that penalty. He was probably pissed at himself for missing it, because all he wants to do is score. All he wants to do is win. I did notice that the central position that Ronaldo was played at, it kind of affected him a little bit because of how Milan were standing on the field. As I said, they were defending. They were not trying to attack. They were just kind of trying to counterattack whenever they had the opportunity. So that gave them the opportunity to kind of close in Ronaldo and kind of isolate him from the game. I do believe Ronaldo offers his best at the left. I think he would, in that role where he picks up the ball and he tries to create something. Right. I think the left suits him well, because usually in the left you have less people, you have less players trying to cover you, and that gives him the opportunity to create something. As in that central forward positioning, you pretty much depend on what you're feeded. And when you grab the ball there and try to create something, you're pretty much stuck, because you have such a cluster in there that you can't create anything unless you pass dribble somebody and then you create something out of that. But yeah, I do believe this was probably his worst game with the Juventus shirt. I do believe he's coming back. He has proven us one time after another that he's an incredible player. He wants to win, and he's not gonna settle with this. He's gonna come back. He's gonna try to become better. He's probably gonna study why he didn't do well. He's probably gonna do something to fix it. So I'm not too concerned with him. I know he's gonna bring us back. He's gonna score goals. He's gonna continue to do that. One thing about the attack that, and you kind of mentioned this when you say Pjanic is not really an option for Mezzala, and I kind of noticed that yesterday when we were pressing so hard and Bentancur moving forward and moving back, Pjanic would not do that role very well. Yeah. What we would see of Pjanic as a Mezzala would be something similar to what we see with Khedira. He doesn't have the legs. Maybe he's better at shooting, but he just doesn't have the legs to go to the front and then run back whenever we have a counter attack. I think the only midfielder that is capable of doing that efficiently is Bentancur, because Matuidi can go forward and go back, but he doesn't have the technical qualities to create a goal opportunity or to even score. So I think Pjanic's best role, as hard as it sounds, is that regista. There is,
I agree.
and if he's not doing well there, I think he has to go.
Yep.
We need to sell him while he has some value. Try to get somebody to play the regista role, and if we don't get somebody to play the regista role, we need to get somebody to play the Mezzala role and move Bentancur to the regista role. So
Yeah, exactly. And I think I know a lot of people like to give Sarri shit, but I mean his style is pretty simple. Like you need players like that once you lose the ball, and like he's using the Mezzala as like obviously the guys that get up into the offensive phase and make runs. But once you lose the ball, he also wants you need the pace and the energy to go and win the ball quickly, right? Cluster towards where the ball is. Whoever's the nearest kind of chokes out whoever's on the ball, and that's how you're winning the ball back. So that's kind of his style, right? So if you have a guy like Pjanic who's really not moving, and I mean, maybe it's just because he's sitting in that regista and that's what he's being asked for, but I don't really see it. The only thing, again, with the attack that I'm worried about is because Higuain is injured and he's kind of our number 9 player, where do we kind of move forward? How do we kind of organize that front, Felix? How would you see us organize it with us not knowing when Higuain's going to come back? So that means we're not going to have necessarily a number 9. Obviously, we have a youth player, but I don't see him getting any time with Sarri's kind of stubborn ways.
So my thoughts are, if we can play Dybala as a false 9 and just kind of give Ronaldo that left side, and whenever we see the opportunity where you see that the middle is getting a little bit less attention because Ronaldo is at the left, and you see the opposition moving towards Ronaldo and covering him, I think we should stick to that. First, that keeps Dybala in the middle, which is a crafty player that can dribble past any midfielder and try to create an opportunity out of that. And that still kind of gives him the opportunity to profile with his left foot if it's in the middle, you know? And Ronaldo being in the left, I mean, he can still create because he has more space. But in the event that we have Dybala dribble past some guys and move to the left, and you can see Ronaldo can probably go to the area and probably set up for a cross, you know? I think that's what we need to do, because otherwise, if we just put Ronaldo in the middle, I think teams are going to get that pretty quickly. They're going to stick. They're going to stick a midfielder. Yeah, they're going to stick a midfielder to Ronaldo and then the central defenders to him. So it's going to leave him out of the game. So that's what I think we should do while Higuain is out. I'm not saying that this is the way to go or this is what's going to work, but I think that's something that it needs to be worked on. If you do that too, you can have Douglas Costa at the right. So that makes him profile as well. You know, he can profile with that left foot and shoot. So you basically have 3 players that are actually profiled to shoot instead of crossing. So I think that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, and I think what we got to understand too is I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Ronaldo has come back stronger and faster." I mean, he is getting older, and I am starting to notice that, you know, he's not as fast. I mean, if you look at some of his Real Madrid videos of him blazing by players, I don't think we're necessarily going to get that out of him. And I don't know, like I said, if he just quit on that one ball or what, but it looked like he was going in slow motion compared to that defender. And so again, we'll see what happens in the next game. But I definitely do think, I mean, it would be kind of stupid to say that, you know, as a player gets older, he's not losing a little bit of whatever pace or strength or whatever it is. I mean, obviously he's one of the best players in the world, but again, the time is the greatest. What am I trying to say? It's definitely gonna start aging him as his body's gonna be taking a toll more and more. So I'm not surprised with that. Let's get into the live player ratings now. Buffon, I don't think he had to do anything during the game. I think I'm just going to give him a straight 7. Pretty standard. I mean, nothing special. He didn't have to do anything. There was a couple chances. One went wide, and one looked like he had it covered. There was a header that kind of came in towards him, a low header, and it didn't. It went wide anyways. But I think he would have had it either way. Your rating on Buffon?
So since he didn't really touch the ball at all, I'm just gonna give him a 6.5. I mean, he's Buffon. I love him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give him anything less than that unless he made a mistake or something. But he didn't really had any presence when he was required. He was there. So just a basic one for him.
How about Alexandro?
So Alexandro, I want to give him a 7. He did pretty well. Maybe 7.5. You know, not really a 7. He did pretty well in the defensive side when he was required. He went forward. He was linking up with whoever he could link up. I think this is the Alexandro that we want to see. I'm really excited that he's back. I hope when we play lesser teams, he can get rotated a little bit, maybe try the Shiglio on that side. And I'm not really, too optimistic about the Shiglio, but I think we need to give Alexandro a rest, and he can pay off. He's good.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. I would say 7.5 as well. Delict, I would say the same thing. I would say 7 had a really good game. And Bonucci, I think Bonucci was 6.5. There was a little bit of uneasiness, but again, all around a pretty solid game. Danilo, I think I would give him 7.5 as well. Really good game from him, getting a lot of tackles, winning a lot of balls, running down, placing in, like you said, probably the best cross of the game for one of the best chances of the game we had. And yourself, Felix, rounding out the defense for Delict, Bonucci, and Danilo.
I think I agree with those ratings. Danilo probably one of his best displays with Juventus. It's really refreshing to know that we can count on him. Just because we need to give Cuadrado some rest.
Right.
And I think he will do good. I think all he needed was some time to adjust. You could see him with that grinta, going back, fighting the ball, making some tackles, some fouls. I mean, that's what you want to see from your right back. Somebody that's not scared of getting the ball back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that also gives us a benefit of, if let's say we are kind of down in a game and he is in the right back and we didn't start Cuadrado, if you need another attacking player, he can go play up top and obviously pull off a midfielder who, whatever the scenario is. So it gives us another option, which is, again, something we're going to need. Matuidi, Pjanic, and Bentancur. How did I not write Bentancur in here? Probably because he's the top player. I would give Bentancur an 8. I'm just going to say that now. And then Pjanic, I would say 5.5. And Matuidi, I would say a 6.5 because he had a generally pretty good game. But anyways, back to you. Sorry for cutting you off.
No problem. So I think I do agree with you. Bentancur was probably the best the best player of the game. He did pretty well, both as a mezzala and as a regista. He created some chances from the back as well. Definitely the best player on the field. No questions asked. I mean, solid 8 for him. I expect to see much more like that from him. It's very exciting to see a young player like that put up performances like this against teams like Milan. So I'm pretty excited about him. As far as Matuidi, as I said before, I think he did all he does. to pretty much sum it up. He did pretty well getting the ball back in our attacking half. I think that was one positive from him. I think it's a positive that he can have the ability to get in the box whenever there's a cross. I don't think we see that from Rabiot. I don't think we see that very often from Khedira, those players. So at least he's moving towards, the position where he's supposed to be as a midfielder. So I think it's a 6.5 is fair enough for him. As far as Pjanic, I was trying to watch the game and I was trying to be optimistic about him. Now that we're resting and that we had the opportunity to have this time to prepare. But I mean, 5.5, 6, that's all I can give him. I mean, you would see in occasions where that he would lose the ball, he would just pass to the wrong side, and we were not. Milan didn't take advantage of that because where he did it, it was more towards the attacking half.
Yeah.
But if we were playing another team that was standing more to their attacking half, that would have been a bad thing. Because I mean, losing the ball back there like that, it's not healthy. So thankfully, we didn't have Pjanic lose those balls in dangerous areas, but nothing more. He didn't really try much. I think he had like one good run where he pushed forward and kind of passed the ball to the front, but not really much from him. And in defense, I saw him. He didn't do very well. He got a yellow card, some clumsy fouls. It's pretty lacking in defense from our regista. You're expecting more from him, but yeah, 5.5 and 6. I think that's pretty much the area where Pjanic's ratings are.
Yeah, I think like you said it too. When Milan did attack, they looked more dangerous than us because obviously they were countering us and they were just throwing anyone up there. Once they were going, everyone was going. So there were some moments where you were like, "Okay, guys, be careful. Like I know we have the man advantage, but just relax. Like stop making it too easy for them to come down and score one." So yeah, I agree with that. What about Dybala, Ronaldo, and Douglas Costa?
So let me start with Ronaldo. Pretty much a really bad display from him. I want to give him a 5.5. I don't think this is the Ronaldo we're paying for, but it's just one game. He should have scored that penalty. There's some people that are saying that Donnarumma he actually touched the ball, but I don't know if that's true, and I don't know if he deviated a little bit. I mean, it was inches away from being a perfect penalty. We can't blame Ronaldo for an inch, But as far as the other stuff, not running enough, not being in the right place, trying to create when Dybala was trying to create, that kind of slowed us down a little bit. I don't think he understood what his role was when Dybala had the ball, and that's a negative thing. But hopefully he'll come back.
Yep.
As far as Douglas Costa, I think he did well. I would give him a 6.5. He tried. It's not really, his typical role in the left, but he adjusted pretty well. He lost a couple balls that he shouldn't have. But then again, when you have those crafty players, they try to create something out of nowhere or out of nothing. I mean, you got to live with that they're going to lose a couple balls. Couple of good crosses. Should have scored early in the game. But, 3 months. We haven't played for 3 months. So I don't think we should be too hard on him. Also, he was coming from an injury. I'm glad that he's healthy. Hopefully, But yeah, it was good to see him there and make some, scrappy plays. And as far as Dybala goes, I think he had a good game. It was more like a workhorse kind of game where he takes the ball and tries to create. he drops back to the defense to get the ball and kind of drive it to the front. Again, trying to cover for other deficiencies that we have.
Right.
And I think that's a very positive thing. I would give him a 6.5 or 7 around that area, maybe a little bit more, just because of his effort and trying to keep the team on the game. He shot a couple of times too. He created something out of nowhere. I mean, he was all over the place. He seemed to be worried about the team. You can see that grinta from a player when they they're thinking, oh, if this team scores, we're out. You can see Dybala running from the front, just trying to mark a guy all the way to the defense, and that's what we want to see. We don't want to see players that are just trying to score goals and not help in defense where they're supposed to. So I think for that effort and for that, giving everything out there, I think I would give him a 6.5 or 7.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. The one thing that I just thought of actually in terms of, the midfield though, before I get onto my next two, what's weird is, like you said it, Milan they just sat back because they knew the pressure was going to come on. But the reason why I don't like playing Pjanic as well in a Regista role is because essentially what they can do is they can just put their midfielder on top of him and pressure the hell out of him, which has happened in multiple games in the first part of the season and even last year with Allegri. That's why I always like to have two guys that are very technical but also can move very quickly, because then they can't just throw. If they throw two guys out there, well, then you can really take advantage of them out wide because, or you can bring in Dybala to kind of play quickly where, it's not worth man marking two midfielders, because then obviously that's going to give more space for your forwards as well and your wingers. That's something that hopefully we're going to have to look into. So that's another thing. Like you said, Dybala, he had lots of chances. He was working hard. 6.5 is deserved. Douglas Costa, I think he did really well. And it's funny, in Sarri's post-match comments, he even said that he was scared that he would get injured. So that's why he pulled Douglas Costa off. I think I would give him a 7. He was working really hard. He was doing really well on the wing. Ronaldo, this is going to be a motivational. I'm kind of more of like extremes. I'm very lenient and I'm very hard. So I'm going to give him a 1 out of 10, and hopefully that motivates him to be a 10 out of 10 next game. I just noticed that, the penalty, I'm not going to fault him. I know it's been a while since we've played, and maybe his shooting is, obviously you can do as much in the gym as you want, but kicking a ball is another thing. And then I just noticed some moments where he really lacked, where he chested a ball and he just let it go. He wasn't really running on the one play. Some other things where he could have made some decisions unselfish to drop the ball off to Dybala or to whoever else. So we'll just give him that. We'll look at the subs now. Cuadrado, I don't think we should really rate. He only had about 8 minutes. I still think he did a decent job, maybe like a 6.5 rating worth. But Khedira, like 2 or 3, in my opinion. Needs to go 100%, no doubt in my mind. Let's use them whatever we can, but whatever. Bernardeschi, I would say about 5. Nothing great. Some decent things he did, some horrible things he did. Rabiot, I'd say 4.5. He didn't really impress me at all. I don't know what he was doing in the box. Didn't seem like his head was really there. And that's really all for me. What about you, Felix?
So let me start with Khedira, because I was really upset to see him there. And when he got in the pitch, it was instantly 10 versus 10. You see how you used your extreme rating on Ronaldo? I'm going to use it on him. And not because I don't like him as a player, but because that's all he's got. That's all he's going to offer. We can't expect more than him. He's a very smart player, but there's no way for him to come back from what he's showing right now. It's just his body. doesn't offer what is needed from him. So yeah, I think your rating is good with Kadira. As far as Cuadrado, yeah, he didn't play too much, but what I saw was positive things too. He was able to move forward. He basically did what probably Sarri asking for, was to hold the ball and try to create a chance and kind of score while Milan was up front. I think he did. He created a chance. He shot one, and then again, it kind of gives you, a good idea of what he can offer up front, and not only play as a right back but also as a forward. So yeah, I think a 6 would be okay because he did better than most of the other guys out there that were subbed in. As far as Bernardeschi, I'm a Bernardeschi lover.
Okay, there you go.
I kind of have faith on him and all that, but it seems like he's missing that last touch or that last decision that he needs to make. You would see that he was very good by dribbling some guys. He would cut in to the field, but after that, there was nothing more. It was more like creating space, trying to hold off the ball. So 5.5, I think it's decent for him. As far as Rabiot, didn't really get to see him that much trying to do a whole lot. He was, doing the usual Rabiot performance, trying to move, but kind of like, he looks heavy. He looks a little bit not stupid, but, kind of slow on controlling the ball. Sometimes you feel like somebody passes him the ball, he's just going to touch it too hard and it's going to go away from him. It doesn't seem like he uses his right foot well. He's just all left. I'm not a big fan of, left midfielders, but that's just me. But even so, I didn't see anything special from him, so I'm just going to give him a 5.
Right. Yeah, no, I think what I would like to see, because it seemed like I think what Sarri was trying to do is give those guys kind of a run out, and that's why he did the 3, and maybe he got a little carried away with the subs, but I would have actually liked to have seen Bernardeschi sub off Ronaldo and him go into like the right wing position and see how he would have fared there. And obviously, again, he was scared about Douglas Costa, so that's why he took him off. But I would have loved to have seen Douglas Costa, Dybala as a false 9, and Bernardeschi as a right winger. And I think that would have been kind of something interesting to see. Obviously, we're not going to be able to, but maybe we see something like that in the future. But something where Ronaldo's not having a very good game, so really, if you take him off, sure, you're risking a little bit. I can understand why you wouldn't want to, but I don't know. We were at the 0-0. It didn't see they had a red card. It's not like necessarily we were too spent on losing the game, right? So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. Let's get into some post-match comments. Obviously, I mentioned he said that that he wanted to. Some people asked him about Pjanic as a mezzala, and he said he's definitely thought about it, but he thinks it's a mistake. I would have to agree with him on that one. I would assume you as well, Felix.
Yeah, I think we all agree with Sarri on that one. I do think he can try him there against a lesser team, some other team that just goes to the back and just waits for us to attack. I think we can try him there. If it doesn't work, just sub him off. But as I said, and as you mentioned, where are the legs? Where's the ability to recover the ball? There's no ability there. As I said, I mean, Regista is probably his best role, and he's not even doing good there. So,
yeah, exactly. He's also mentioned that, and I think he's on live TV. He said he fucked up the subs, which was kind of funny. And he got carried away with the 5 subs and how we're supposed. Obviously, you can do 5 subs, but they have to be over 3 different times, like the original 3. So he said that. He said he was also satisfied with the opening 30 minutes, like we've talked about. Totally dominated. He did ask Cristiano to be in a more central role, and he seemed that he said that he was pleased with that. Obviously, Cristiano was. And he also mentioned he doesn't think playing him a few meters one way or another is going to make a huge difference. I have to disagree on, and I think we both kind of disagree on that, and I think he definitely does need to stay on his left side. They can just kind of jam up the center, and then you're kind of looking for some quickness, and I don't really necessarily see him being the type of player where he's, beating up 6 guys at once and scoring. So I definitely think he needs the space out wide, and I think you touched about. And then again, sorry, I did say he subbed out Douglas Costa because out of the fear of injury, but he thought he was one of the sharpest players, and I have to agree with him on that. And just wrap up on his comments, Felix.
Yeah, so I think Ronaldo as a center forward in Spain, that worked out pretty well because defense in Spain, they're more spread out. Same at Champions League, you have teams that they want to win games. They want to go through. They want to create opportunities. They want to score goals. But in Italy, you're probably not going to get away with that, where you get somebody that marks you the entire game and they just know what's going to happen, and the defense is just sticking to you.
Right.
I agree with you. He needs to stick to that left side. I think that's where he creates more. I think he scored how many goals? 20 plus goals this season playing there. Why would we need to move him from there?
Right.
I understand that Higuain's not playing because he's injured, but just try Dybala as false 9 and just give Ronaldo that liberty of dribbling some guys. He can even offer crosses with his left foot on that side. So just giving that opportunity again. And I think Sarri is going to realize pretty soon that that's not what Ronaldo is a Juventus for.
Yeah, and especially, if you want to give him the freedom to move around where he wants to, but still kind of staying on the left-hand side. If he's got to go to the right, whatever, that's fine. But yeah, I agree. It's you definitely don't want to jam him up in the center because teams are just too gifted, I think, at least in Italy, in my opinion, too gifted with tactics, and they know how teams are going to play. And they really find out who you are, and they just go out. And where I find in other leagues, they just beat you with raw strength or raw attack, and they just overpower you. In Serie A, it's more of a finessed game. So let's look forward, though, to our next game, the Coppa Italia final on June 17th at the Stadio Olimpico in Roma. Who are you looking for? Obviously, there's a game today at 1 my time. Napoli and Merda. Napoli has the 1-0 advantage going home, actually. And who would you prefer to see out of that, out of those two, if you had to choose?
Well, I don't really mind who we play. I do think beating Merda would be more satisfying. Again, beating Napoli is also a really big deal for me. We have Merda down here, then you have Napoli. But, this last season, Napoli has been the toughest team of the two for us. So we don't know. It's just one game, and Napoli can be playing like trash, and then they come back and they just look like they're a world-class team. With Merda, you know what to expect. You know that Conte is coming with a 3-5-2. And, with our 4-3-3, I think we have the advantage against him because of the way Conte steps up at the field. But yeah, not really rooting for Napoli or Merda in this game. I don't care what happens. I'm just happy to be in the final, and we'll play whoever we have to play. We need to beat whoever wins this game, for us to lift that cup. So
Yeah, and just remembering back, we lost to Napoli, obviously on the road in the second game, 2-1. And were we winning that game? No, we weren't winning that game. We were actually down 2-0 in that game. So they played us really hard, and they usually play us pretty hard in the finals. We've had some pretty close Coppa Italias and obviously Super Coppas as well. So I think obviously the prospect of beating Merda would be awesome, but then obviously the prospect of losing that game would be pretty, giving them the chance of winning a trophy after so long. Like they haven't won a trophy in, well, there's a Twitter page. He'll tell you how many days that Inter hasn't won a trophy for. But so yeah, I would probably say Napoli, just because I want to continue that streak. But again, it doesn't really matter to me. I think like you said, it's going to be a one. We got to get through these. I think this is going to be good because there's going to be a whole bunch of one-legged games that we need to like drop this mentality we have, and I think it's going to be good for us, a learning curve. Hopefully we can be on the better side, the winning side of these one-legged affairs that seem to nag us so many times. Let's get into some questions, obviously, from the viewers. Someone sent in, does anyone ever want to see Kadir subbed on again? I would say no. That's pretty straightforward. I think we've talked about it.
Yeah, I think we've talked about Khedira enough. It's disappointing. I think it's a little embarrassing for him. He probably knows that he's not doing well, but he's never gonna say it. He's a very decent guy. We gotta say that. He's very respectful of the team and all that, but it's just not there, man.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, we're probably going to have to play him again more anyways, just because of all these games coming up. So really, at the end of the day, a lot of these questions, now that I'm looking back, we've answered a lot of them. CR7 central role, self-explanatory. I think we should be on the left wing. Does Dybala play too deep at times, leaving an empty box? And I think that's kind of something that we touched on as well with the just him being, and I think it wasn't just being that he was too deep. I think he was too wide today, and he was kind of having to come back and in and around. So obviously there were some counterattack moments where he was able to run up and play, but there wasn't really any. He wasn't buzzing around the box as much as I would have liked. Best performance, worst performance, I'd have to say Bentancur. Worst, I would have to be Ronaldo. I think you would agree. Maybe Khedira was worse. And then subs we've talked about. I think it was, like I said, for Sadi, I think he wanted to give them the playing time. He was kind of maybe a little bit confused with how this format is going to be, how he wants to make subs, because now we do have 5, so that's going to be a strategic thing in the future, depending on what happens in certain games, who gets hurt. It even looked like De Ligt got hurt today, or yesterday, excuse me. And that kind of worried the crap out of me, because we can't lose these big name guys, not at this moment. So,
yeah, when he got hurt, all I was thinking was, oh my God, if this guy has to come out, we'll have to play Rugani and Bonucci together. And they're kind of the same breed. Rugani he's somewhat of a good passer, I guess, good controlling the ball in the back. But when it comes down to defense, and losing your player and leaving chances to the other team, they're pretty much the same breed. So they kind of worried me a little bit.
Yeah, I know it's I actually didn't mind the last time Rugani played. I thought he did decent. I mean, again, it's more of, I think, just someone that you have on the bench that, you can rely on in certain situations. Obviously, he's looked bad in a lot of situations, but I found with Allegri, he wasn't given enough games. Like, Allegri didn't really cycle through a lot of guys, and I find that, some people were even making the argument with Marquisio saying, well, he played him out this amount of games. Yeah, but if you're not getting that consistent playing time, you can't really get back into form, and when you're thrown in for 20 minutes, well, what is that going to do for you, right? So, yeah, no, I definitely think there's a lot to learn from this game. There's a lot of positive to move forward. Obviously, it's not like a lot of people were thinking, oh, we're playing just as bad as before. Guys, calma, calma. Like we have a lot of games to go, and I think there's a lot, like I said, a lot of learning points, a lot of positives we can take from this game. Again, we move on, so it's not like we're out. And yeah, all to do in the final. Let's see what happens. So let's move on to some more. We're going to talk about some nostalgia now. I know you told me the segment Allo Stadio or at Torino you haven't been, unfortunately, but you know we hope to see you there in the future. I was actually thinking, hoping to maybe even do like try and make some trip out of maybe not next year or in a couple of years, but you know, get a lot of the WhatsApp fans and the friends on WhatsApp and some other bigger names and do kind of a meetup to go see a Juventus game. So that's all to be said in the future. But for you, Felix, you know, just give us some of your most memorable Juve moments if you can. I like the nostalgia, so I like the thinking of our past because we've had such a wonderful history, a lot of great moments. So kind of something what sticks out to you?
So, as I mentioned before, I kind of started following and studying the history of Juventus at tough times. We were, where we were back in 2006. And then going to Serie B, and then coming back to Serie A. But when we came back, we weren't exactly where we left off.
Right.
We went back to Europe, but not really, having a lot of influence or hopes. And then a couple of seventh places that were absolutely disgusting. I was bullied in school because I was, the only Juventus fan, and they were like, fans, Real Madrid fans, and they were like, "Why do you follow this team?" And I'm like, "It is my team. It's my heart, and that's what I follow." But I do remember feeling a lot of joy when in that first game at UJ Stadium against Parma, that 4-1 game. That was absolutely amazing because it felt like a rebirth.
Yeah.
It felt like I was gonna be finally living what we had lived before that period of time that we were just not as good as we are now. It was like, okay, there is hope. We have a home now. We have a coach that knows what he's doing. We have the players now. Let's do it. So for me, that game was special. I remember it was a sunny Sunday morning. It was beautiful. Just the sun in the stadium. I can remember today. I can remember Pirlo with those passes. Marquinhos scores, Vidal scores, and so like nobody scored twice, but we have 4 different players that scored. So that was kind of nice. Unfortunately, Jovinko had to come in and damage the mood, but. With that penalty he scored, but definitely that was one of the moments. And then the other moment that I remember with a lot of joy was when we beat Cagliari to secure our Scudetto in 2011-2012 season. And that was special. I remember that night watching the game. When we won that game, I just took off my shirt and went out running around the entire neighborhood. I was screaming. I was like crazy. And people were like, "What the hell is going on with this guy? Like, what happened?" And nobody would understand. And my dad would understand a little bit because, he was kind of like a fan, but not really. Yeah. He was happy, but not as I was happy because I really understood what it meant. So yeah, those 2 moments, I would say those are the ones that are still in my heart where I can go back and feel happy about it.
Yeah, it was an interesting 11, 12 season, excuse me, because I had just recently witnessed my favorite, or it would have been that same year actually, the same year my favorite hockey team actually won the Stanley Cup as well. So they won their first championship after so long. So it was an incredible, that was I would say my 18th birthday, actually 18th year. So it was just, honestly, it was an incredible, whole summer and spring. And actually, they actually had one of the or I guess smaller sports channels had all of the rights. So I pretty much watched every game on television which was one of the first times in a long time, because again, like I said, there was so much turbulence. One channel would get it, some would show. But yeah, no, that first game was unbelievable. And even, Lichtsteiner, the getting the first goal with a nice little chip there from Pirlo was amazing. And it just seemed like it didn't seem I couldn't say that I thought we were gonna win that year, but just the way we had opened a 4-1 victory, it seemed like, well, this looks really promising and we're headed in the right direction. So, and then yeah, against Cagliari, that was awesome. And they even showed usually they don't show the trophy ceremony, but that year on that channel they actually had allocated time for it, which was really awesome, because after so long and not having to fidget with the computer and going to find some link that had the Italian channels back in Italy, Sky or whoever was showing it, to watch the trophy presentation. But yeah, that was unbelievable. I think about that a lot, Felix, because after the last couple of years, it was kind of rough with the fans, and I found that in those seasons, 11, 12, obviously 12, 13, and so on, it was very positive from a lot of the fans and on Twitter, and everyone was kind of it was kind of we didn't know what we were all kind of new to it again, because it was like a rebirth. So everyone was pumped for it. So no, I definitely think back to those years a lot, and it was definitely a hell of a ride. And I mean, who knows? Hopefully we can hit the treble or whatever. It's still early, but let's dream that we can move forward and hopefully lift a lot of trophies this year. So yeah, now obviously it was an awesome podcast. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you reaching out. Again, guys, don't hesitate to message me on WhatsApp, Twitter, wherever. If you guys want to come on, I kind of have a preliminary idea of what's going to be happening next. I'm going to need someone for a preview for the Coppa Italia final. I'm going to need someone for the post-match. So drop me a line, and we'll get that set up. And again, it's pretty easy over Skype, so should be available for most people. Then just some closing things. Obviously, the business end of it. Obviously, if you want to follow me on Twitter at Juventinita, DAL, and Instagram. Don't really use it too much, but hopefully getting some. I have some photo editing software, so I might be trying my hand at that in a little bit. But yeah, obviously, podcast is on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Hit up those platforms. I don't know why Google Podcast didn't work. I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm not sure if anyone does want it on that, but I'll definitely look into it for you guys. And yeah, just keep your eye on Twitter or WhatsApp. I'll definitely post it whenever this is going to be available and whenever the subsequent podcasts are available. And yeah, till then, stay tuned. We'll see you guys soon. As always, fino alla fine, forza Juventus. Ciao.
Ciao.